What's up everybody, it's me Murdock, and today I'm here with a review for you for the film Candyman 2021. This is the latest horror movie sequel slash reboot that is following this current trend of movies using the exact same title as the original franchise starter. And trust me, I understand the sentiment, like we're going back to the roots and making a direct sequel to the original film, which is usually the best one, but updating it to modern times and making it for a new generation. And I'm generally enjoying this trend, but boy does it make talking about or even searching for these movies way more confusing, since now we have to say the year number right after the title as well. But nonetheless, this installment is directed by Nia DaCosta, who also co-wrote it, along with Jordan Peele and Rosenfeld. The film follows Anthony, an up-and-coming artist who lives in the currently gentrified neighborhood of Chicago where the Cabrini Green housing projects once stood. While searching for an artistic inspiration, he's introduced to the urban legend of the Candyman, and then uses that as the basis of his newest art project. Unknowingly, he unleashes a spree of new murders by the Candyman, and slowly starts to lose his own sense of sanity to the legend himself. Just like the original Candyman from 1992, this film has some strong messages about racism and gentrification that it's conveying to the audience. I'm honestly a little bit surprised to see how visceral of a reaction some people seem to be having about this movie tackling this kind of subject matter, because I mean, the original film is literally about a black man who is the son of a slave who was brutally beaten to death for falling in love with a white woman. But either way, I personally was not surprised to see that this movie tackled some very similar themes, but was able to take the clarity and deeper meaning of it all to a whole new level. I think that one of the strongest aspects of this movie is how the screenwriters were able to expand the history of the Candyman urban legend in a way that stretches generations. It's a reflection of the history of violence against people of color and how black trauma is processed in these communities. I do think that some of the way that these themes are presented to the audience may be a little bit on the nose at time, or slightly spoon-fed through its dialogue and storytelling, but I didn't really mind it because I was really impressed with what the social commentary was and how the writers were able to flesh out the myth of the Candyman into something so poignant and darkly poetic. This movie clearly has something to say, and that message is very real, very relevant, and very sad that we have to be tackling the same themes as the original movie, which came out almost 30 years ago. However, I do think that because of how big of a message the story has that it's trying to present, that sometimes the storytelling of the plot itself can suffer. The movie has a runtime of 91 minutes, including the credits, and I honestly feel like it could have benefited from being longer. I was in it for the movie, and I could have easily been on board for another 20, maybe even 30 minutes. But because it's so short, by the end of the movie, a lot of the film's storytelling does feel a bit rushed. By the time that the climax of the movie began, I was honestly caught off guard because I felt like we had just scratched the surface on some of the plot revelations. And then all of a sudden, I was shocked to realize that I was thrown into the last 15 minutes of the movie. I felt like a lot of the plot points in the story could have benefited from a few extra scenes to properly explore them. And some of the supporting characters in the movie didn't get the time needed to bring closure to their stories or even provide a justification for their inclusion in the first place. The actual ending itself also left a lot to be desired in terms of execution. I think that the ending written on paper in terms of its beats and what it's trying to say as a statement works really well. But when it was actually happening, it didn't feel like this grand finale for the film. Like I said before, it just felt rushed. Acting-wise, I think the performances across the board are all solid, but they didn't blow me away by any means. They all did their jobs and portrayed their characters well, but they didn't leave me particularly thinking about anyone's acting abilities after I had watched it. Actually, scratch that. Nathan Stewart-Jarrett was really good as Troy and definitely a standout performer in this movie. In specific, his character is the comic relief, and his performance was so spot on that he stole any scene that he was in and really had me cracking up. I haven't seen this dude since Misfits back in the day, so seeing him back on screen and killing it was really nice. The film also balanced the humor with the seriousness of it all really well, in my opinion. The humor wasn't overwhelming or distracting to me, it all felt really natural. And a lot of it wasn't even really witty jokes or anything. A bulk of the humor stemmed from the honest portrayal of how people of color would not be messing around if they were placed in these standard horror movie tropes. And this led to some really funny lines and moments. Now, on a similar note for me, horror-wise, I personally didn't really find this movie very scary, which was disappointing. And I'll also preface this by saying I'm a huge horror movie fan, so maybe I'm a bit desensitized to the things that might frighten an average audience member, but even so, there are plenty of modern scary movies that have terrified me, and this one just didn't do it for me. I felt like, if anything, the kill scenes in this movie are just shot really cool, which I appreciated from a filmmaking standpoint, but the scares just didn't come with it. Nia DaCosta does some extremely impressive directing with these scenes. The kills are shot from all kinds of interesting and unique angles, especially the stuff involving mirrors and reflections. And it wasn't just a standard, person standing at a sink and closing the medicine cabinet to see somebody in the reflection behind them either. There was some fresh and different uses of mirrors, which was really nice to see with such a cliche horror movie tactic. I just wish that along with all of these cool directorial choices, that I was also getting scared. But even with that said, let me make this clear. I have never said Candyman in the mirror 5 times, and I still ain't saying it. So overall for me, Candyman was a good watch, but there was some very clear issues that kept it from being great. I think that this movie has some really strong messages about racism and gentrification with its social commentary, and I love that. However, the condensed runtime just left me wanting more. Whether it be a deeper understanding of some of the plot revelations or just some fully realized character arcs. I was a bit disappointed that I wasn't scared during the kill scenes, but they were at least shot confidently enough that I really appreciated the stylish directing from Nia DaCosta. If anything, the stuff that got to me the most was the unexpected amount of body horror in the film, which really grossed me out. Also, just a heads up, I think that this movie will work better for you as a viewer if you watch the original Candyman right before. And if you're a fan of that one, I definitely recommend at least checking this one out for its continuation of the story. So in the end, I'm gonna give Candyman 2021 a B. But that's just my opinion, and I want to hear yours, so let me know in the comments. What did you think of the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was there something in particular that I didn't bring up that you really liked or disliked? Let me know, I'll reply, and we'll have a discussion about it. And while you're down there, if you could do me one more favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, that would help me out so much with getting my videos out to a bigger audience. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Murdock, and I'll catch you next time.